You're the industry coach, Mike McConathy, coach. Get #1 Baylor tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 p.m. These guys have played top-level opponents. You played Gonzaga twice last year, a consecutive nights, a #1 team. When you played this many high-level opponents in the last 12 months, really, I mean, how does that prepare you for tomorrow night against Baylor?
Well, I just think it puts you in a position to where, they are so talented and they do such a great job defensively. And then when they do a great job defensively, they're guys that can really make shots. And so that creates a real problem because they're athletic, they play with a great deal of confidence, they play with great chemistry. They've really developed themselves into a fantastic culture. Coach Drew's to be commended and his whole staff. And, I watched them probably a little bit more closely because one of my former assistants from Bossier Parish Community College, Bill Peterson's on staff there, guy that I've known since the 80s. And they just do a great job. And so you watch people, a lot of times you watch teams more that you have a connection to, if you want to say a connection.
Sure.
I don't really have a connection to the Baylor program, but I do have a connection with Bill Peterson, and have known Scott Drew, and actually Coach Scott Drew's dad recruited me at LSU, Homer Drew, when he was working for Coach Dale Brown, who I got a message from today. So I think what you do is that you approach every game like it is any game, and you talk about what they do well, and you talk about things that may be weaknesses. Now, their weaknesses are not going to be as blatant as other teams' weaknesses. So, you try to study, you try to find something that maybe is a chink in their armor, and there are not many chinks in that armor. It is an interesting game, though, because Kendall Coleman played with two of the Baylor players on tour this summer to Macedonia with Athletes in Action, Mike Siegfrieds. In fact, Mike Siegfrieds will be at the game, a guy that's been with Athletes in Action for years. So there's a little bit of a different spin there because of that. It'll be interesting to see how Kendall responds to that, which I think he'll do fine. I mean, he's played to some awful good people this year, and he's done some really good things. But it's a real challenge, but it's not a challenge that you hadn't felt before, and that's the difference. In a perfect world, would this be the kind of schedule that Northwestern State plays? No. I mean, I'd love to play 3 games and then be able to mix it in with like opponents. But on the other hand, why not go play the best? Then you have a barometer to know what it takes to be a great, great team. As Coach Stu, told me, he was with a family and they're big basketball people. And he looked at our schedule and he said, "What is wrong with your coach?" And so that was pretty funny because, he was looking at the schedule, doesn't understand the dynamics. That's who we are at Northwestern. It's who we've been, all my whole career. And you just go play the best and do the best you can.
You use that phrase, guys that look like they belong. Kendall Coleman, you mentioned Bill Peterson. Bill Peterson coached that Athletes in Action team that went to Macedonia. What role, Kendall had obviously been on this trajectory where he's getting a lot better, he's putting in the work, but to go play with a group of guys that had Baylor, Texas A&M, some of those types of guys on that team, and to fit in, to be just as good as those guys, what do you think that did for his confidence level this summer?
Well, I think it's a huge level because I think that anytime you have an opportunity to go play with higher level guys, it allows you to size yourself up and understand where you are, what you are, and it gives you, if you're this kind of player, which I think Kendall is, I called him his daddy's name, it gives you the drive necessary. Hey, I can be those kind of players. Hey, I need to work on this to be that kind of guy. And we're just blessed and fortunate that we have the connections that's allowed. It took me a long time to get these, allowed me to get guys in a position to where we go. The last 7 years, 8 years, we've been able to get guys to go, and that's been a real big plus. I wish we could have done it all the way through my career, but I didn't have the connections that allowed us to do that.
Kendall has been seeing more double teams. It feels like he's looking to pass, and he's becoming a better passer as those double teams are coming. How has that factor, and I'm sure when you progress into conference opponents, I mean, he's going to see double teams the rest of the season, I would assume. How is that kind of factoring into the way this offense is operating?
Well, I think it's factoring into understanding that what you've got to do within what they give you. Always take what they give you. They give you this, then there's going to be something open. You've got to understand that. So we're learning that, we're understanding it. Now the perimeter guys really understand that they ought to throw the ball inside to him, because he's going to get the double team, and then they can be on the backside. They're going to be wide open to catch and shoot guys, and we've got some of those, and LT and Carvel, Imarion, Jovan Zellenbaba, all those guys are catch and shoot guys, and they can catch it and put it up there and make some good things happen. Robert Ugas had a huge shot the other night, and just hopeful that he's going to become the player that we've been wanting him to be, and he's such a great young man.
And then this Baylor game is the last true non-conference game. You get the pre-conference tournament in Katy after that, but the last true non-conference game, you get 14 games. What do you get that sense of, okay, this team has been able to practice more, kind of putting things together going into conference play? Where do you feel like this team is right now?
I feel like that we made some progress in the last 2 weeks. After the LSU game, and you look at the score and you think, well, how in the world can you think you had any progress? Well, we handled the press pretty good. We rebounded with them for 30 minutes, and we just couldn't make shots. Kendall had an exceptional game, 8 for 11. The rest of them were 9 for 50. The rest of the team was 9 for 50. And so you learn, hopefully, to understand what you can do and what you can't do, where the shots need to come from, where they don't necessarily need to come from, when they need to do. And if you go back and you look at the games and you look at those stat lines, when we get production out of our 2s and 3s, we're a lot better. When we struggle, and you can even go into the 4s, when we struggle is when we're not getting protection out of the 2s and 3s and the 4s. I mean, because generally we've had pretty good production out of the point, and I think that'll just continue to improve and get better. But just trying to figure it out. Every day is a different day. Every day we got to work to get better, and just so grateful and thankful that that's the beautiful part about basketball, is that you have a preseason and you play tough opponents to improve yourself for that. Toughest schedule, hands down, that we've ever asked one of our teams to play. We've got to continue to encourage them, care about them, and love them, and help them get through this to be successful during the conference schedule.
Seems like one of the common themes among the high majors that you play is these guys really play defense, whether it's Oklahoma, LSU, Houston, now Baylor. I know they probably do it in different ways, but does it help at all to play teams that have a similar mentality in that, hey, they're going to play really good defense? Yeah, we got to find a way to score, but is the preparation similar?
I think the preparation is similar, and you got to understand what they do and what they do well. Baylor will switch 1 through 4. Sometimes they'll even, depending on, may switch their 5 at times, but most of the time 1 through 4. They're very, very aggressive. They're going to get a great help team. You throw a ball up in the air, somebody's going to get it, and they're just very, very talented. So what do you learn from that when you play other teams is we've seen this. We've seen this kind of defense. We adjust to this. We handle this in situations. We have to show them that to where they know they did handle that in certain situations.
Coach Mike McConathy, thank you very much.